everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Ghost of Aragian. I'm Sal, and today I'm going to showcase and break down my Permafrost hybrid Typhon build. For this build, I wanted to make something with my favorite ailment in the game, water. This build uses a polearm as its primary and a warhammer as its secondary for cleanup. I was able to do a 3-man Boonless Atot to 30 and a solo Boonless with this build, but in the solo run, I ran into a Macros on trial 25 that just refused to stop going shielded and regenerating every 2 seconds. I plan on doing another proper solo run in this build in the near future to truly call this a Boonless Atot build. Now, let's jump right into this build. First, we have our Sunflare Destiny, which is a double primary weapon that can only be found in Atot. By double primary, I mean it can have a combination of 2 primary traits from any of the other polearms in the game. For this build, we are going to want to gain the greater blessing of endurance when we inflict an ailment. Polarity attacks inflict ailments. Gain this blessing will allow us to take more damage, and 55% weapon damage while we are at full health. Secondaries you are going to absolutely need with this are crit chance, and you're going to want to double it and add crit chance again at the end. Next is our Warhammer, and again it is a double primary weapon which can only be found in Atot. Primaries you are going to want on this Warhammer are gain overhealth when you defeat an ailment afflicted enemy, and gain a greater blessing of endurance when you inflict an ailment. Secondaries you are going to want are polarity attack charge speed, polarized bonus damage, weapon tech damage, or crit chance. Next is our key to this build, and that is the Permafrost, which is a double primary charm that can only be found when fighting Moirax from the Fire and Darkness DLC. Primaries you are going to want on this are gain the blessing of power when you inflict Ignite, gain the blessing of luck when you inflict chill. Now, we won't be able to use that for blessing of power, but we will be able to use that blessing of luck constantly because we will always be inflicting ailments with our weapon techniques. The second primary you want is the Lion Talisman primary, which gives you weapon charge on crit. Secondaries you would ideally want are crit chance, double that, and add crit chance again, but my Permafrost roll with crit damage. Next, we have our Mark of the Duelist, which is a rare amulet that can be found anywhere. Its primary gives us health when we crit. On secondaries, you want crit chance and crit damage, and you want to double the crit chance and add crit damage as your last upgrade. Now, onto our rings. The first one is probably familiar. It's the Eye of the Dragon. Mine is primal, but you don't need a primal for this build to work. Its primary gives us overhealth when we defeat an ailment afflicted enemy, gives us overhealth retention, and has our weapon techniques inflict ailments. Secondaries you would ideally want are overhealth gained, water damage, and damage to chilled enemies. The last upgrade you're going to want to add is resistances. Next is the Ring of Erudition. Its primary gives us 16% polarity attack charge and has our next polarity attack deal more damage when we defeat an enemy with our weapon technique. Secondaries you're going to want are weapon tech charge speed, double that, and ideally you would want water damage, damage to chilled enemies, weapon tech damage, or rampage bonus damage. Onto our banner, we have the Mesa banner. Mine is a primal, but you don't need a primal for this build to work. Its primary gives us additional crit chance and crit damage. Secondaries you want are crit damage, weapon tech damage, damage to chilled enemies, or water damage. Last but not least is our Lifestone, which is an uncommon item that can be found anywhere. Mine is primal, but you don't need that for this build to work. Its primary gives us weapon tech charge speed. Secondaries you're going to want are crit damage, double that, and then weapon tech damage, polearm damage, damage to chilled enemies, or water damage. Now, before we jump into our augments, here's a few more clips from this build's Boonless runs. Now let's jump right into these augments. First up, we have our Fearless Wolf, which is a cursed epic item only found in Lightbringer. It gives us rampage charge speed and rampage bonus damage if our physical resistance is below 45%. Secondaries you want are damage to chilled enemies, water damage, or weapon tech damage. Next is the Twilight Bloom, which can be found anywhere. It gives you a boost in weapon tech damage. Secondaries you want are polearm damage, weapon tech damage, rampage bonus damage, or damage to chilled enemies. You can also get anything related to polarization. Now, on to our Paradise Augment, which is going to give us weapon charge when we crit. Secondaries you want are weapon tech damage, rampage bonus damage, damage to chilled enemies, or polearm damage. Next is our Black Seed, which gives you shield charge and shield damage whenever you defeat an enemy with a technique. Secondaries you want are damage to chilled enemies and might. Next up is our Void Augment, which gives us health on crit. Secondaries you want are overhealth gained, water damage, damage to chilled enemies, and add resistances as your last upgrade. Next is our Enchanted Tear, which is a cursed augment that can only be found in Lightbringer. It extends your chill duration, but takes away your Archon charge. Secondaries you want are damage to chilled enemies and water damage. Next is our Scourge augment, which can be found anywhere. With this, you gain shield charge when you defeat an enemy. Secondaries you want are damage to chilled enemies and water damage. Now, onto our trusty Force Barrier. This allows you to go uninterrupted if your overhealth is above 50%. Secondaries you would want are overhealth gain and double that. The last upgrade you are going to add resistances. Our final augment is again an overhealth granting augment, and that is the Focus augment. This gives us overhealth on crit. Secondaries you want are rampage bonus damage, weapon tech damage, water damage, or polearm damage. Now, let's jump into our skill tree. Alright, as you can see, we are still fully spec'd into weapon techniques, soul shatter, vitality, crit chance, might, crit damage, spirit, rampage, ailments, recovery, weak points, polarity attacks, all stats, and then you see I have a few strays, 1 in weapon timing, 4 in resistance, 2 in takedown, and 2 in finesse. Well, that's all for this build. Thank you so much for watching. Soon after this build, a Silvermane Beginner's build will be posted. Thanks again for all the support. Take care.